In the introduction to his book, Jack Bogle, the famous founder of Vanguard, tells a story about a conversation between two famous authors, Kurt Vonnegut and Joseph Heller. Now, these two authors are at a billionaire's party on Shelter Island in New York State. As they are having a conversation towards the end of the night, Kurt Vonnegut remarks that their host, a famous hedge fund manager, made more money in one single day than Joseph Heller made total off his famous book, Catch-22. Now, Joseph Heller responds with incredible insight, saying, yes, but I will have one thing he never has, and that's enough. In this video today, I'm going to talk about what I believe is the most important financial skill that you can learn. It's also one of the most difficult to learn, and that's getting the financial goalposts to stop moving. A few weeks ago, I was chatting with a wealthy client. Now, they are in their mid-60s and had just recently retired. And by any standards, they have a fairly large retirement nest egg of over $5 million. Now, based on their conservative spending goals, I asked, why didn't you guys retire sooner than right now? You guys could have likely retired at least a decade ago and still had a very strong retirement plan. In so many words, they explained that the goalposts kept moving. Now, when they were younger, they laid out a rough financial plan and determined that they would need about a little bit over $2 million in order to retire safety. So this became their North Star. This became their focus. And so they worked hard in order to achieve that. And as many of you watching this video can probably relate, once they achieved that given level, it was a bit underwhelming. Now, with this milestone, they expected a sense of relief, some peace of mind to sweep over them. After all, they are by definition financially independent. They could retire and fund their lifestyle without having to continue to work. But instead, nothing felt different. Instead, the idea of retiring in their early 50s felt somewhat terrifying. Now, swings in financial markets felt more volatile than ever because now they had more to lose. So rather than retire, well, they kept working. If they couldn't feel that peace of mind at a little bit over $2 million, well then rationally they would expect to feel that at $3 million, $4 or even $5 million. But as they continued to hit those given milestones, the peace of mind never came. Because retirement is about a lot more than just the money. It's a huge life transition, not only just a financial transition. And there's a lot of things that you gain from work that you may not readily think about. For instance, work gives you a sense of purpose. It can be intellectually stimulating as you problem solve and you work towards goals. It can also give you a community of both personal as well as professional relationships that you value and you get to interact with each and every day. Now, there is peace of mind that you gain from a paycheck coming in each and every month, and that is worth noting, but that's just one variable. And in my opinion, the financial side is one of the easiest variables to solve for. And so too often what I see are people moving the financial goalposts in order to solve problems that come in a area outside of the financial realm. And I think in part this is because everyone can rationalize focusing on the financial scoreboard. When we don't know exactly what we want in life, no one is going to fault us for continuing to grow our net worth. So when in doubt, move the financial goalposts and continue to accumulate. Understand though that money is not the end goal. Money is only a tool, and it only benefits you to the point that it serves your life. And so if we're in a situation where we're accumulating more money that we might not use, and we're trading a valuable resource that is not renewable, like your time, that's a pretty poor trade-off, all things considered. And keep in mind too that money has a marginally decreasing benefit. Going from nothing in the bank to having $100,000 in the bank is hugely beneficial. We now have an emergency fund and we can withstand a disaster. If we get let go from a job, we can take a little bit longer and live off our savings in order to find that exact right next job that we might take. We now have money that can start compounding and we can start accumulating more. But on the other extreme, going from $10 million to $10 million and $100,000 in large part is pretty meaningless. It doesn't make that big of a change. Now, in both examples, we have a $100,000 difference between one net worth target and the other. But the impact is vastly different because of this marginally decreasing benefit of wealth. Now, I don't say all of this to try to convince you to retire right now, live off dog food, and then convince yourself that that's enough. What is enough will differ for every person, and that's completely all right. Some people will need to accumulate more than others will need to. But the point being is you need to fully understand what you actually want out of not only your life, but then retirement. And then reverse engineer the financials from there. Now, if you're struggling to figure out exactly what you want out of life and retirement, I have two exercises that I think might help. Now, the first comes from a book that was recommended to me by a client. What I want you to do is I want you to take out a piece of paper and take out a pen. And I want you to start writing down everything in your life that brings you true joy and true happiness. Think about your relationships, physical health, hobbies. Just start writing down everything that brings you true happiness. On the screen, I have a few things that were on my list. Now, once you're done, look at the piece of paper. I would guess for many of you, and this was certainly the case when I performed this exercise, that when you look down at this piece of paper, the majority of the things that bring you true happiness really don't require that much money at all. Instead, they require time. And so going back to kind of the thesis of this whole video, if we have a void in our life, if we have something that is preventing us from living out our true happiness, if you will, why would we keep moving our financial goalposts? When we perform an exercise like this and we see that the majority of the things that bring us true happiness don't require the financial goalposts to be moved in the first place. Another exercise that's in a similar vein is what I call the perfect day exercise. So again, I want you to take a piece of paper and I want you to mark out each of the hours within a given day. Now start filling in those hours with ultimately what you would do if you were living out your perfect day. What time would you wake up? What would you have for breakfast? What would you do when you first wake up? Then how would that change throughout the day? Who would you spend time with? What would you spend time doing? Really spend some time and lay out your perfect day. The next point in this exercise is essentially give that perfect day a trial run. See how you feel. Again, looking back at your piece of paper, I would guess the majority of the things within your perfect day don't require that much money. Instead, it requires time. Instead, it requires freedom and independence to do the things that you ultimately want to do. So once again, moving those financial goalposts tend to not help you live that perfect day. This is in part why I think so many studies show that on average, happiness does not increase past a level of income around $75,000 to $80,000. Once you have your basic needs met and you have a base level of discretionary income, most of the problems that we face in life are not financial problems, even if we might trick ourselves into thinking they are. Given this, I have 3 tips that you can use to help you stop moving the financial goalposts. The first is figure out what you actually want out of life. Now, this is extremely difficult, and rarely do I see people actually sit down with a pen and a pad of paper and really start to think about what they actually want out of their retirement and their life. And the reason for this is when it's in our imagination, everything's a lot easier because we don't have to make any trade-offs. We can do everything we want. We can continue to travel. Because retirement is down the road, we always have time to accumulate and figure those type of things out. And now once someone gets right on the doorstep of retirement, they realize they have to start making trade-offs. They can't do everything because we live in a finite world. Now, this is hard, but lean into this. If we don't know what target we're trying to hit, we're never going to be able to hit it. Number 2, value your time more than anything. Time is the one resource we cannot renew, and it gives us independence. It gives us optionality. We can choose what to do with our time. And as we showed with those exercises earlier, most of the things that give us true happiness require time, not money in the same way, at least for the majority of us. I'm paraphrasing, but I think Warren Buffett said a line back in an interview where he would trade all of his wealth to be 35 again. Now, many of you can hear that and think, well, it's easy for him to say as he's accumulated all of this wealth. But there's probably some truth in there as well. This is a guy who has reached the mountaintop in terms of wealth and realizes that time is significantly more valuable than that wealth. And then finally, number 3, once we figured out exactly what we want out of our life, once we're valuing our time properly, then let's reverse engineer your financial plan in order to fit that lifestyle. And yes, there's a ton that you can do inside of a financial plan. As our saying goes, you don't need more money, you need a better plan. We can get more out of that financial plan. But really the most important things start before the financial side of things. Now, ultimately, your financial plan should be built around and fit your lifestyle, not the other way around. And our traditional advising industry is absolutely terrible for this, constantly trying to fit retirees into their financial plan. And that shouldn't be the case. Now, right here I have a video that talks about how much you can afford to spend in retirement. It takes a little bit of a non-traditional look at spending through retirement, showing that you can actually spend quite a bit more on the front end of retirement. If you're interested in watching, click on this video right here. And always remember, you don't need more money, you need a better plan.